I spent 15 months working for YES Youngdo in Korea, and then when I returned here to Canada, I started working at the Toronto head office in a recruitment and training role. And things were never quite what they were promised. A lot of things that we were expecting to happen, because what they told us would happen never did. And they tried to change a lot of things kind of as they were going, including the contract. We did have, a contract that was written by them proposing what we would be doing and how things would be done. Immediately, things started being a little bit different than what we were supposed to. We're like, okay, not a huge deal. Then we have a new manager coming in, Daniel Ju, whose real name is not Daniel, actually Youngdo Ju. So they tried to tell us he was very Canadian, and his name's Daniel, but his name's not Daniel. So that's kind of a lie right off the bat. And he's the nephew of the owner. So he came in and he immediately wanted to change the contract, and he was saying that he's going to make, wanted to make minor amendments, but he was completely redoing the contract, everything, job description, hours of work, pay, vacation, probationary period, which was not in our original contract. So a lot of things that he wanted to change, but he could not do so legally. If we signed off and agreed to everything, then yes, no problem. But if there's anything that we did not like, we did not have to sign it, because for them to force that upon us to a situation where we'd have to quit, it's called constructive dismissal, and it's illegal, and we could have taken them to court. So the contract thing, it never really came up. He said he had the contract, but we never saw them, we never signed anything. So Kimberly quit because as soon as Daniel came in, me and her both started looking for better work, and she had a connection and was lucky enough to find something very quickly. And then, so we brought in a new guy, Steven, who, from Toronto, Canadian, taught in Korea, but he did not have a contract. He was working without any form of contract. So last week, myself and Wenny, the other Canadian girl, were fired. We were both, have 30 days, but I was told to leave the building, and they took my security pass and keys and everything, so I don't have to work my 30 days, but I'm getting my, 4 weeks pay severance. Wenny, however, actually has to work out the length of the 30 days because they need people in the office. The office couldn't function. So they basically fired us for the purpose of, since they couldn't legally change our contracts, and the new manager wanted things run his way as opposed to the way that someone else did it before him. So yeah, we lost our job because he wasn't happy with the contract that someone else had written. So not really much you can do in that situation. I hated the job. The men, they're all incompetent there. Daniel does not know what he's doing. He acts like he does and thinks he does, but he really doesn't. He made a lot of mistakes early on, the first couple of days, that, were red flags for me to know. This guy does not have management training or business training. He has no idea what he's doing. And he's like, well, I ran this office before, so he's going off experience. And yes, he ran this office in 2006, and that office was shut down. So yeah, his experience wasn't very enlightening. And Youngdo, the son of the president, is completely useless. He barely speaks English, and he's a student. He goes to school, so he's not even there most of the time. So he's pretty much useless. And Hannah, she's a counselor who works here, and she's, the epitome of Korean inefficiency. Every morning we would go in and we'd have messages from teachers saying that Hannah had photocopied and sent the wrong pages for their lesson that morning. So usually the first hour and a half was spent rescanning and sending the information to the teachers because Hannah fucked up the night before. So we had to do her job in the morning in that respect. And then I tried to organize all these saved files so we wouldn't have to rescan them over and over again, and she completely ignored that system. So, the three of us were saving it, but anytime she did something, it wasn't being done. It's like, is it really that difficult to save, the file in a folder with the rest of them and name it appropriately? Is that too much to ask for? I don't think so. Come on now, it's a business. You gotta, do things properly. So she was useless, Daniel's useless, Youngdo's useless, and the whole thing's trying to be micromanaged by Korea anyway. And as far as I can tell, they seem to be quite useless also. So Youngdo is not a good company to work for. I've heard a lot of stories from teachers in Korea now working for Youngdo and the things that they are doing. Part of my job was trying to communicate with the teachers to find out what's wrong with the contract, why is Youngdo's contract not as attractive an offer as other schools. And it basically comes down to two fundamental things. They have longer hours and their pay is not high enough. Their pay looks fine when compared to another school, just straight, gross. But when you calculate the hourly rate, you're making less working for Youngdo than you would working elsewhere. And, it's more work. Is that really worth it? Most people say no. And that's why Youngdo cannot recruit teachers. So, they're losing, a lot of teachers, and new people aren't coming in, and they're losing a lot of students because they raise their prices and students are going to other schools. They don't seem to learn from past. So my advice to anyone who is considering going to work for YES Youngdo, don't do it. There are a lot of other schools that are much, much better, and Youngdo's a safe bet. You won't get screwed over in pay, stuff like that. In Korea, in Toronto, yes, they did screw over our first pay. We had to fight to get an extra $200, which they had taken. That's after tax, $200. And my final pay is wrong. I'm still waiting for that to be resolved. They're off by about $600. So my advice to anyone who wants to go to Korea and teach, do the little amount of research that it takes and find these other schools. Talk to people in Korea, because there's a lot of them. Go on Facebook, you can find them, join a group. And there's a lot of really good schools, like Maple Bear, I've heard nothing but good things about. There's a lot of other places you can go, and your life will be so much better for it. So take the time and do not join YES Youngdo, because they suck and they do not respect or treat any of their teachers, in a way that they don't appreciate your teachers. You're just an English vessel, and that's the reality of the situation. They really don't care. So, good luck on your search, and hope you have fun.